Hey y'all, Quabila Jones here, host of the Q Spot podcast. Make sure to be intentional with your words, your thoughts, and your actions. And please subscribe, like, follow, share, and hit the notification bell. With special guest Charleston Girley of Girley Estates LLC discussing real estate as income. Hey y'all, welcome to another edition of the Q Spot podcast. Y'all know I get real excited with this special guest. I'm gonna try to keep my composure today. But my very special guest is Mr. Charleston Girley. How you doing?
I'm good today. Like I said, I'm very appreciative for you asking me on here. So I'm definitely glad to be back on the Q spot.
Yes, sir. You have a wonderful story. You have been through so many things as a young man. Are you even 30? Have you even reached 30? Have you even reached 25 yet?
I've reached 25.
Okay.
I'm slowly getting close to that 30. I actually have a birthday coming up next week. So I'll be hitting the 28 mark. So
All right.
getting a little bit closer to 30. Not there just yet though.
All right. But the things that you have accomplished, even amidst all of the, the things, the hurdles that you've had to overcome, you are a walking testimony. I don't want to go too far back because we want everybody to go back and watch the previous interview if they haven't already. But you endured, survived a car crash that could have taken your life. You had issues. I want to say struggles. You had issues or challenges that you overcame when it came to becoming a football player at Arkansas State University. You studied a subject that wasn't really at the forefront of your plans. Like you had a whole different plan in mind, and you said, "Okay, let me look into math," and then you became an accountant, better known as the Black accountant. Yay! And you wrote a book all about it. And so here we are. But you decided yet again, okay, that ain't enough. I need to do something else. And when I saw the post on social media, I felt like I was one of your blood relatives. I was excited. I was cheering in my little spot, like, yeah. So when you announced, now you have another business venture, Girley Estates LLC. So we hear all about how vital it is to have multiple streams of income. And yes, in today's society, you have to have more than your 9 to 5 or whatever other one form of income you have. So you decided to throw your hat into the ring of real estate. So let's talk about how did that start? When did it start? Like what steps did you have to take? People think it's easy. They see these shows on the reality TV shows. I'm just going to buy a house, flip it, make some money. No. It's so much more than that. So I'm going to let you take it away. How did you get started?
So if we backtrack, we can start at the beginning, basically of 2020. And
Okay.
so I had been working just my typical 9 to 5. I would tutor on the side, but yet and still, I was just finding myself not just having just access to additional money. As you say, the cost of living continues to rise. And then just as a young person, you want to travel, you want to do all these different things, but the amount of time that I was working wasn't bringing in just the additional money. So prior to the end of 2019, I actually started learning about the stock market, started investing a little bit, and I started to have a little bit of success.
Okay.
At the beginning of 2020, I have a mentor named Jabari McLennan, and we've actually just been in contact way before real estate. But anyways, he kind of met with me at the beginning of 2020 and just asked me, have I ever been interested in it? And I'm kind of like everybody else. No, I don't want to do no painting. I don't want to have people calling me for plumbing issues. None of that. And so I was kind of against it. And we ended up having lunch maybe several times. And he was just kind of talking me through quite a bit. And so then if anybody knows anything about me, before I do anything, I need to read or do some type of research on it. So I asked him, I was like, hey, well, if I am interested or do decide to do it, what are some suggestions for books that I can read? So he gave me 2 books. The first was Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, which is kind of I would say the beginner's book that a lot of people in real estate kind of start off with. So Rich Dad, Rich Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, and then the second book was Loopholes of Real Estate by Garrett Sutton. And so those were kind of the two books that I just kind of took an interest in, decided to read. But before reading, I still wasn't necessarily interested in real estate. I just decided to take some time to read and do a little research. And then after reading both of those books, it kind of put just a light bulb in my head that, hey, this is a way that I can potentially accumulate more money, but also start to accumulate wealth. And that was, I would say, the focal point for me, because I think in society we get confused as to being rich and then being wealthy.
Mm, yes.
Being, being rich, that basically requires me to put in the time on a consecutive basis in order to receive a certain amount of money. And if I stop doing that, I no longer receive that money. But with wealth, if you get to a point where you accumulate wealth, you can get to a point where you stop working and that wealth continues to grow. And so I started to see kind of that pathway with real estate. And so that is what kind of got me going in that direction. And then the second thing is that I do, and it'll kind of go into a different direction. So I don't want to go too far, but
Okay.
I do feel like that it had maybe kind of a divine purpose for me, because I had tried other business ventures and
Okay.
they didn't necessarily pan out the way that I wanted them to. But because I had set up everything from prior businesses, when I came to real estate, I just took everything that I learned and it made my real estate journey way more smoother.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, let's talk about, did you have to take classes to get a license? And what was that process like? Because I see people share their journeys about real estate class, and some people may think, "Oh, it's easy." But I'm sure there are some challenges. There's some terminology. There's a lot of policy procedures and state laws and this, that, and whatever. So please share with us some details that you can about
Well,
what it takes to get your license.
so I would definitely say that real estate has so many avenues. So on my end, I am a real estate investor.
Okay.
By being an investor, you don't need a license, you
Okay.
don't need anything. So what you were alluding to, that would be more so a real estate agent.
Okay. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. What, because a lot of people ask me that question. What an agent does is that they help people buy or sell their house.
Okay.
Me, as an investor, I go out and I may hire an agent to work for me, but I
Okay.
would say that in a grand scheme of things, it's kind of like I'm the boss in a sense,
Okay.
and an agent, will kind of help me to try to buy a house, or if I have a house I'm trying to sell, an agent will help me to sell it. But being an investor, you don't need any type of certification. You don't need any license. The only thing that you need, which is free, is just your own knowledge, uh,
Okay.
not to make a bad investment choice, because that can definitely hurt you in the
Mm,
long run. But ultimately, you don't need anything. You just need your knowledge. And then I would definitely say you just need a good group of connections. And
okay.
so that is what make a real estate investor profitable.
Okay. So as you mentioned earlier, you learned the stock markets. I am learning the stock markets and learning how to options trade, and it's challenging.
Yeah.
Watching your stock that you predicted to go one way, going other way. But anyway,
Yeah.
so let's talk about that. You mentioned having a group of people around you, and I'm learning more and more that in order for communities to grow, you need to enlist in the ideal wholeheartedly of group economics. That's the only way to grow. Well, not the only way, but it's one major way
Mhm.
to grow. So let's talk about that piece of the puzzle, because while it's admirable to think that I could do it by myself, but we don't have limitless
We,
coffers of money.
we
You
don't.
need other people to believe in your vision and want to be a part of this process. So let's talk about the group dynamics of it all.
I would definitely say group economics is probably one of the key assets in order to scaling anything that you're doing. So from the books that I've read in regards to real estate, it talked about building a team. And when you're building a team, you are seeking advice or seeking different people that specialize in these areas. So, in my example, me going into real estate, I don't necessarily know how to buy or sell a house. And so, Dad gave me a key indication that I need a real estate agent. This
Okay.
is a person that specializes in this, and they need, certifications, a license in order to do this. So, they let me know that I need this person on my team.
Okay.
Next thing is that real estate can be very legal. And so,
Oh,
hence again, I need a lawyer. And so I started to seek a lawyer. On the financing side, I know that I don't have 15 to 20% to put down as a down payment. So that let me know that I needed to seek a banker who would be willing to work with me and be willing to give me an opportunity. And so it's kind of like you looking at all these different areas where you may lack information, and you're finding these people that specialize in this area and kind of putting together kind of like a dream team.
okay.
When I posted, or even when I post about just a single house, yes, I may have bought that house, but it's so many other people that played a part in me actually getting the opportunity to purchase that. And so,
So, wow. I'm just so excited. Go ahead.
yeah, so I would say even if it's a person like doing stock, if you know that from the books you read, you still kind of maybe lack information, I would definitely say seek out, a person that has been doing it and try to just get some advice or tips from them and see if they would be willing to mentor. Or if not, just seeing if there are just some tidbits that you could gather from them. And then, of course, you have your general books, YouTube. You could probably look into a broker. Um,
Okay.
and I think the biggest thing is that sometimes when we start businesses or we're looking to grow wealth, we don't want to pay for additional services. But in order to actually accumulate, wealth, you do have to pay for the best. It may be a cost up front, but they are great at what they do. So the upside should be that they should be able to take you to a higher height by investing in it.
Say that again. We cannot take the cheap, free, easy way out. If you are serious about your business, whatever line you're going into, you have to pay for someone who has already done it and who has a track record. Kind of going back to this group that I've been a part of, learning trading, the gentleman that's over the group, he has the experience, he has the track record, and he has been very open and honest about his earnings and losses. And so, why not want to invest in that?
Yeah,
You see what they've done in a short amount of time. That is possible for you. It's
exactly.
about your mindset. Let's talk about that aspect. People, they go in with one mindset, and we quickly learn that once we become challenged as individuals, we kind of get stubborn and fold our arms and stuck in the mud. And so let's talk about what was some of these psychological and emotional challenges you may have had to face for yourself going through this process.
Definitely in the beginning. So I would definitely say fear. Number one, I don't even have a house of my own. So me trying to buy a house and rent it out to another individual was definitely scary. And then what a lot of people don't know is that I actually bought my first house right when the pandemic really started to happen. And so on my side, I took pretty much, I wouldn't advise nobody to do this. I basically took my entire savings
Ooh,
down payment on that house. And so seeing what the economy was doing with the pandemic, understanding that I was basically emptying my savings, it was fear that really was kind of keeping me from jumping over that bridge. But I will say that the mindset that I had was that you never know what you can accomplish if you never try. And so I was confident in myself that even if it didn't pan out the way that I planned it to or expected it to, that I would find a way to build myself back up and then eventually try again. And so that's kind of what leaned me into taking that leap of faith and then just trusting myself and trusting God. And so I would definitely say that mindset is the biggest thing. And some of the tips that I've learned, especially in business, is that regardless of whatever field that you're looking to go in, if you have to ask yourself, if the worst case scenario happened, will I be okay? Because of course, if you do something and you make the money, that's the greatest thing. But you have to be willing to take the lows in whatever industry, whatever job, whatever investment that you're willing to go through. If you're willing to deal with the lows. So I had to be willing to deal with tenants calling me. I had to be willing to deal with plumbing issues. I had to come to a self agreement with those things because
Okay.
obviously, when things start to go great, I'll be overjoyed. But if I can convince myself that I'll be okay or I'll figure it out with these things that I really don't want to deal with happen, then that kind of let me know, okay, I think I can pursue this.
All right. So now let's transition into Girley Estates LLC. So you've done all your paperwork, you've done your research. Now you're ready to get your first property and get it ready for a family or individual. So tell us what that moment was like when you one found a property.
So that moment was really great. And like I said, it just goes back to the people on your team. My real estate agent, Joel Cox, they call him JC, has definitely been a pivotal person in my real estate journey. So he's my agent. And when I went, I started off just talking to him. He gave me so much information and I decided to stick with him. And so I was like, hey, what do I need to get started? Like, what house do I need to look at? And he already had a house available. And so we went with that house. I ended up putting a down payment. I used a first time home buyer loan.
Okay.
Most people refer to it as an FHA loan. And so you put about 3.5% down. So I put about $2,000 down,
Okay.
ended up acquiring the house. And so it was a pretty old house. And so it was a rental house. And so the tenant in there ended up moving out. So this is not the fun part, but I had
Mhm.
to go in and kind of clean up the entire house. So in today's society, everything is based off appealing. And
Mhm.
so I needed to go in and kind of update the house. So I was running low on cash because I thought about trying to get some painters to paint it, but they were obviously going to charge too much. So I just decided to go to Lowe's, buy some paint. Now I have painted in the past, so this is something that I am familiar with. But I ended up painting the entire house on the inside.
Mhm.
I ended up redoing the cabinets. I attempted to do a plumbing thing, but I ended up having to pay for a professional to ultimately go back and correct my mistake.
Oh,
But
no.
yeah, but ended up getting it rent ready. And this was actually, and this is why I say it was a blessing in disguise for me to enter when I did. It was right when the tornado had hit Jonesboro. And so the family that actually moved into my house was a victim of that tornado that happened in Jonesboro.
Oh, wow. That's a wonderful story. Now, I want to go back though. Okay. Now, for people who don't know, you are in a fraternity.
Mhm.
Why do you call your frat brothers to come and pick up a brush or roller or something?
I just have this thing that when I have something that's quote unquote mine, I want to go in, I want to do it myself. And then also, I just looked at it as just an opportunity to really be a part of what it was that I was trying to build. Because
Okay.
I wanted to be able to get to a point where I appreciated the journey that I was taking. So the pandemic had happened. I was actually working from home. So I was using that time to kind of go over there and paint and do different things to that house to really try to understand real estate a little bit better, not so much from the money side, but more so from the cosmetic side. And so I
Okay.
kind of wanted to get my hands dirty,
Okay.
but just kind of mop into that house, and so that it would mean a lot more to me. Because I think in business, especially in real estate, if you are not necessarily hands on, you can look at everything as a profit. But
Okay.
real estate, it is dealing with real people and their lives. And so I definitely did not want to become detached from my morals and values when I'm working with people and trying to move them into a house that is suitable for them, and things like that.
I'm glad you mentioned that because you are a very spiritual man. And, I see your posts and I love your posts, what you're reading and how it impacts you. And so, as you were working on the house on days by yourself, were you having talks with God? Were you just in a place? What was the presence? What was the atmosphere like for you? And what were some of your thoughts as you were working?
I was definitely having talks with God, just kind of, like I said, being in the moment and understanding that, okay, right now I'm painting. I always believe in starting small.
Okay.
I was just telling myself one day I won't have to paint. I'll be in a position to where, I can pay for a painter. But it's always about starting small and being humble. And so I was definitely just kind of working with God in that sense and really just trying to understand where it was that I was trying to get to. Because the other thing is that, and I tell my mom about this all the time, I needed to paint it because I know how I am. When I get to a point where I learn something, I always want to teach other people. But if I don't do it, then I can't teach other people. So I knew that I needed to paint. I needed to try to fix this plumbing to let people know, like, this is the reward, but I also had to do these different things as well. And so it's kind of like allowing God to take me through different things so that when I do get to a point of being able to teach other people, I can lay it all out and not just the glory uh, from it, but I can talk about, the rough patches as well.
Um, so, do you feel that once you reach a point, you feel that you want, say you're living in that, 10-story building with the, a penthouse on the top or whatever. And do you feel though, because of who you are and your humility, that you would still say, okay, you know what? I can take a day and go help the family. Or maybe if you don't know the family that's moving in that unit, I can go help the workers. I can make my presence known. And then talk about from that aspect also why it's important to stay engaged with whatever project so you're not so, you know, distant.
I definitely feel like that I would still have that side of me just because of me sticking to my morals and my values. And so I think the biggest thing that I learned is that money is not necessarily evil. It's the lust for it or the desire for it. And so I think by me doing the things that I'm able to do, working hard and being accepting and humble of just the process, is I understand it a little bit better to where, if I acquire wealth, which is definitely the goal, I didn't get it in a malicious way where I was doing people wrong to acquire something. I did it the right way. And so by me being able to stick to my morals and values and do it the right way, yes, I definitely want to get to that point. I believe that I will, but I didn't go against my morals and values. So I definitely feel that I'll still be in a position to want to help, to want to lend a helping hand and do all those things. And so definitely morals and values play a huge part because money can change a person, but it's all about how you go about acquiring, you know, your riches or your wealth. If you did it in a malicious way, typically you may stay malicious in your endeavors. But if you went about it in a humble way, because the Bible does talk about, us living healthy, wealthy lives. So we're not meant to be on earth just, living paycheck to paycheck. You
Mhm.
know, God does grant, the desires of our hearts as long as it aligns with his will. And so you will get to a point where you are financially stable. You will get to a point where you are mentally stable. And if you go about doing those things in the right way, then you'll never turn your back or your heart on God or his people.
Wow, that's so wonderful. Thank you so much. All right, so you has your first unit been is occupied. So did you get to meet the family that moved in?
I didn't initially get to meet the family because at that time I didn't know how to go out and find tenants. So I actually had my mentor Jabari kind of help me with that. So I
Okay.
ended up finding her. It wasn't until several months later when I think I needed to do just kind of update inspection where I
Okay.
ended up meeting her. And so that was kind of the first time because I was still kind of reluctant. I really didn't know. I knew from a business perspective, get a house ready, make sure the money is doing these different things, but I didn't know how to approach just the personal interactions
Okay.
because I was scared that if you develop just personal relationships with your tenants, it could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing. And so I was kind of just fighting that for a little minute until I got confident just in myself. And then I started interacting with my tenants. And so I interact with them really well now. And I have maybe about 14 tenants in
Oh,
all. So
that is amazing. That's absolutely amazing. So this business can be profitable. Even if you're not a real estate agent, you're a real estate investor. Forgive me for misspeaking on that, but real estate as a form of income can be profitable. But as you mentioned, you got to have your heart and mind in the right place. You have to be aware of your intentions when doing something because I'm a believer in the energy you put out. And as you mentioned, the energy you put out is the energy you're going to get back. So if you go into this with malicious intent,
it
yeah,
is.
your downfall is gonna be quick to come. So, gotta keep your heart and mind right.
You do. And like I said, because in real estate, you're dealing with people's lives. So in the stock market, you're just kind of dealing with stock. But in real estate, you are dealing with people's lives. You don't want, sometimes people will get into real estate and they just looking for a profit. They don't care how it comes. They don't
Mhm.
care what it looks like because I have seen just heartbreaking scenarios. I remember I was getting ready to try to look for my third investment.
Okay,
And so it was an older house. Me and my agent, we went to that house and we were looking to buy it to do a rehab.
okay.
And so we went there and the place was not livable for any human being.
Oh,
But it was people that were living there and they were actually paying a landlord, rent. And from that scenario, I told myself I never want to put other people just in dangerous or unlivable situations just to collect a check because that was probably the worst, most uninhabitable place that I've ever seen in my life. And people were actually living there. And I would say probably the heartbreaking thing is that they knew that I was coming to potentially buy the house, and their number one question was, "I hope you don't make us move out." And in my eyes, I was like, if I'm being completely honest, I really don't want you even staying here because this is so uninhabitable.
mhm.
And they were just willing to just still have a roof over their head. And I just definitely did not want to be in a position to just collect, just to say that I'm collecting a check. And so even now with my tenants, I try to just do different things. Even if it's just some type of encouragement. I think for Christmas, I gave all my tenants a Christmas gift.
Oh,
And I gave them cards for the new year, and probably looking to do something for Valentine's Day just to show my appreciation to them.
that is awesome. And so with that particular property, were you able to acquire it and renovate it?
No, we actually walked away because
Okay.
it was so uninhabitable that we basically said that house actually needed to just be tore down. It actually needed to be tore down. However, I will say that propelled me into my next deal, which was my 11-unit apartment complex.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
although we didn't acquire that, we ended up, well, when I say we, me and my agent, but ended up getting something a little bit better, something a little bit bigger as well.
That's awesome. And so here you are in the game less than a year and you are doing well. Um, what is your next move? I mean, what's on the horizon for Girly Estates?
So right now, my goal is to continue acquiring property. That's my number one goal. I have some personal goals that I want to reach, and then I'm also looking into possibly creating a business from real estate. And what I
Oh,
mean by that is, so you have different avenues that you can go through. So, like we talked about, a lot of people are real estate agents.
hmm,
I'm not necessarily interested in doing something like that. But the other side of real estate is bookkeeping, where you have to account for the money you bring in, the money you pay out, all these different things. And so for the past year, I've been managing my own books. It's
Okay.
the first time I've ever done something like this, but with my accounting background, it kind of helped me learn how to do that. And so I do know that regardless of whoever, I help get into real estate, this bookkeeping is still going to be a pivotal point. And it's just not as easy to learn if you don't have that accounting background.
Mhm.
So what I am proposing to myself is possibly creating a bookkeeping company
Ooh.
I can manage different people's books as they come into the real estate world, and then possibly even branching out to other businesses as well. But that is definitely something that I am considering and looking to possibly do in the future. So you may see me doing a bookkeeping company.
Yeah, Miss Q is gonna stay on you. I'm gonna be watching you. Like I've already adopted you as one of my nephews. Like I feel like I'm related to you. I'm just I know I can't be happier than your mom and aunties and all of that, but I don't know. I feel like it sometimes. So I just thank you for being you. I thank you for being so kind and so gracious and just so humble. Like you are such an amazing young man. The world is at your feet. Like there's so much more out there. And so I'm just so happy for you and all that you have accomplished. So if anyone would love to get in touch with you, join your team, or just they have any questions, how can they reach you?
Definitely, you can reach me on my social media. So on my Instagram, you can reach out to me at the accountant underscore five. And then I want to say my Twitter is CJ Girley underscore five. And then definitely on Facebook at Charleston Girley. And you can definitely reach out. I'm definitely looking into also possibly starting either a YouTube channel or creating maybe a real estate course to kind of continue to educate and get people into it, because I would definitely say that real estate is a very great way to accumulate wealth, but there still are just minor details that I would like to coach people through just to make sure that they understand exactly what it is that they're doing so that they don't find themselves in difficult situations. Because while real estate can be profitable, it can be a headache as well because things in a house they tend to cost a little bit more when things go wrong and things like that. So definitely want to educate people on just things to avoid, things to kind of refrain from, so that they can make real estate the most profitable if they choose to dive into this industry.
Wow, you give me some ideas. I don't know if real estate is one of those, but I mean, maybe investing, like becoming. Let me ask you this before I just overspeak. Okay. What if someone just wants to invest in your group, your company, so they too can earn, I guess, a profit or, a dividend from that? Is that even a possibility?
Yes, that is possible. So I would say not right now with me, as because I'm still continuing to grow. And so for me, right now, I only want to operate with my money. And the
Okay.
reason being is because, like I said, it hasn't been a year yet. And so although so much has happened, I don't feel seasoned enough. And so the last thing I want to do is put somebody else's money at risk. However, there are things out there. I think they're called REITs in a sense, but it's similar to the stock market where you can put money. It's more online based, but you can put money into these real estate groups, and these
Okay.
go out and buy property in Dallas, California, and you can receive a return on your money in that sense.
Okay.
But I would say that maybe in 5 to 10 years from now, people can look to probably invest with me, just not right now. I
Nice.
continue to grow, continue to kind of be an expert just for myself and get to a point where I'm okay dealing with other people's money, because that can be a whole different.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes, sir.
I
We.
would definitely say the number one thing, if I had to tell people what to invest in, and it's going to sound so cliche, but the number one thing would be to just invest in yourself. Um,
Okay.
and the reason being is because as much as real estate can be profitable, stocks can be profitable, you yourself can be extremely profitable if you take the time to really figure out what it is that you're good at. And then once you figure that out, you'll be able to scale things way higher. And I'm gonna give an example of this. So let's take away real estate and let's
Mhm.
focus on my tutoring. So I've gotten to a point where I'm pretty good at tutoring, and all the students that I've tutored, I do not believe that no student has failed any class that I tutored. And I
Okay.
took the time to kind of understand accounting and make sure, I'm tutoring correctly. But what that has allowed me to do is that it has allowed me to set my pay in order to tutor people. So what has once was kind of like a side job for me, it's gotten to a point because I got so good at it that I can determine how much I'm going to get paid from it. I can determine what amount of time I want to give to this, or if I don't want to do it. And so when I say investing in yourself, bring out the best in yourself. That way you can determine what it is that you exactly want to do, because wealth is all about trading time for money.
Mhm.
So when I used to maybe tutor um, as much as I can because I was just trying to get additional money. But because I got to a point where I can set that pay, now I don't have to tutor as many hours, and so I'm gaining my time while still acquiring wealth. And so I would say that's the biggest game changer, and that can only happen when you invest in yourself. And
Yes.
I,
Mhm.
I would say that's the biggest thing, because anybody can work 23 hours out the day, but you've acquired some money, but now you're tired. The goal is to be able to have this free leisure while still being able to make money. So I would
Okay.
really say invest in yourself and do the things that you desire to do.
I'm glad you brought that up again. I am loving this trading group, and I don't want to call it a trading group, but essentially it's a trading group where we share ideas and tips and things with each other. And so, the coach, the leader of this group, he talks about valuing yourself and your time. And when you know your value, then you can assign that. You can tell people, this is who I am, what I bring to the table, this is how much I charge.
Yes.
And those who are in agreement and who value you as well, they will pay you for your time. They're not going to grumble. Oh wow, you charge, you can't get no. This is who I no, this is my time. So I love that you said that. Invest in yourself. I've been trying to navigate the waters of financial freedom for myself and trying to figure out what it is. Well, I kind of know what I do well. So
Really.
yeah.
I love it. I love it. I definitely, just say, just do what it is that your heart desires and go after whatever it is that you want to go after. Because the only person that's holding you back from really anything is oftentimes just yourself. Because even in real estate, right, I've learned that no matter what problem you encounter, there's always a solution, no matter what.
Okay.
No matter what. The biggest problem that I was facing was that typically you need 20% down. So let's just say $100,000 house, you need $20,000. I've never had more than $10,000. However, just because a problem arises doesn't mean that there aren't solutions. You just have to take the time to find those solutions. And if you can do that every single time, you'll continue to grow no matter what. And so definitely if you face a situation where it's saying no, you're just one step closer to a yes. You just have to keep going.
Okay. Well, awesome. I can't thank you enough, Mr. Charleston, for joining me with this interview. I hope that people are taking notes, stop, pause, whatever the case, write notes and reach out to you because you have some valuable information to share. Again, he's valuable. Okay, so with that, you know,
No,
you
I
might.
definitely thank you and just appreciate you for having me on here once again. I've always enjoyed it, and I enjoy just our dialect just back and forth, and so I'm definitely appreciative of it.
When I say you have taught this not old, older dog some new tricks, so I can learn from people that are younger than me, different from me. Even though you are in a different industry that I'm in, I have my degrees in sociology and communications. I can still learn from what you're doing. It's just a blueprint. I just need to learn how to apply it to what I'm doing over here. So I thank you for giving us you, for sharing your knowledge, your insight, your wisdom, your spirit. Thank
Thank
you so very much. So this would not be the last time, y'all, that Mr.
you.
Charleston would
I hope
grace
it's not.
the spot. So we're gonna come back. Hopefully, it won't be a year. We'll see what the rest of this year brings. Pray to God, no more tornadoes in Jonesboro, Arkansas. We don't need that again. Not this time. But thank you, thank you so very much for joining me. And I want to thank everyone that has supported the Q Spot podcast in any shape, form, or fashion. February marks the year that I've been doing this, and so I'm happy to keep bringing you more real and relevant content. Thank you. And so I just want to remind everyone, join the Q crew so you don't miss a beat. And don't forget to be intentional with your words, your thoughts, and your actions. Mr. Charleston brought up intentionality. And as always, be sure to kiss the y'all. Stay tuned for more. This has been the Q Spot Podcast video series. Have a good day. Thank you for watching the Q Spot Podcast video series. Don't forget to join the Q crew so you don't miss a beat. Follow, like, and share on all of my social media platforms, as well as the major podcast platforms. Lastly, be intentional with your words, your thoughts, and your actions.